Thank you, Mr. Chair. My district begins just 2 miles north of Detroit, a city whose population is more than 80% black. Yet my district, just 2 miles away, is nearly 80% white. That doesn't happen by accident. I've listened with open ears to the passionate speeches and stories from my colleagues over the past few weeks. Our colleague from the 6th District, week after week after week, passionately pleading for this body to unify against a symbol of racism and hatred, a relic of an ugly and painful part of our past when people owned and sold other people. Our colleague from the 2nd District, openly and emotionally grappling with feeling unsafe and angry in the face of so much pain. Our colleague from the 3rd District pleading with us to listen to the people who are tired, who are hurting, who have faced generations of government oppression and continue to fight the same fights that their parents and grandparents fought, just to be heard and seen. And our colleague from the 4th District, who just a few weeks ago stood up and gave a speech about hope, despite having revealed that he'd personally lost 27 people in his life to COVID-19. Challenging all of us and reminding us that silence isn't acceptable. I've grappled with my role in all of this over the past few weeks. And last week, I watched a video of Amy Cooper, a white woman, call the police on a black man in Central Park whose only supposed crime was asking her to leash her dog in a park that requires dogs to be leashed. I watched as Amy Cooper told him that she was going to call the police and tell them that an African-American man was threatening me and my dog, and she did just that, and immediately raised her voice and summoned tears and feigned a real threat, despite the fact that we see no movement forward from Mr. Cooper's camera and hear his voice calm and measured. He was in no way a threat, but it was terrifying and eye-opening how quickly this woman turned on an act of fear and threat in an attempt to use the police to protect her against a black man. I watched the video of George Floyd, a man who lost his job as a bouncer during the shutdowns due to COVID-19, and whose crime was passing a counterfeit $20 bill, crying out for his mama, saying, "I can't breathe," as an officer held a knee to his neck for more than 8 minutes, who held it there even for 3 minutes after Mr. Floyd became unresponsive and after his pulse could no longer be felt. Listening to my colleagues speak and watching these videos made me realize that for too many people and for far too long, America has had a system designed to protect and serve people who look like me from people who don't, which is how a district that begins 2 miles north of an 80% black city can be 80% white. A few months ago, I was sitting in a city commission meeting in my district. A resident got up to address the commission and demanded that the city stop building multifamily housing and apartments downtown because it would, quote, destroy the character of the neighborhood, going further to say that, quote, the people who own single-family homes are not the people who rent apartments. Another resident stood up and demanded that the commission, quote, prohibit restaurants and bars downtown from having DJs at night, a common practice that draws many visitors and a lot of business to our city, quote, because that music attracts those people, he said, and we don't want the problems of Detroit coming here. I was shocked and appalled, and I legitimately did not know what to say, so I said nothing. Last month, our office received a long voicemail from a constituent, a woman whose voice was raised and getting more stressed by the minute. Quote, I saw that the governor created a commission about race, she said, so I hope you will call me and explain to me why white residents are being forced to shelter in place while blacks in Wayne and Detroit, who are the ones spreading this virus, are allowed to saunter back into the world. I was shocked, appalled, and I did not know what to say. So again, I said nothing. Over the past few weeks, black residents of my district have challenged me to be louder, to speak up. One mother told me how important it is because she fears for her son and for his future. She said, we need you. She challenged me to be louder. Our colleagues challenged me to be better. And to all of them, I'm sorry. In my uncertainty of what to say, too often, I've said nothing, which has done nothing to stop the embedded racism and systemic failures that have sustained an 80% white district 2 miles north of an 80% black city. I'm sorry, and I will no longer be silent.